Hey, it's Rob and welcome back to Axel's Garage. We finally got a nice day. It's been raining every weekend. Haven't been able to get much done on the XJ here. And I'm not even sure where we left off in the last video, but we are up to putting the shocks in. So, she's still up in the XJ-Cosmo here. And we got a set of shocks in. I'll link them in the description below. We're using the KYB XLG. Why? Because they were available. KYB has always been a decent brand to me. I've never had an issue with them. They're black, which I wanted. I didn't want some yellow or this is Emily's Jeep. This isn't some, you know, lifted off-road maniac. It's just a nice looking Jeep that runs really well and drives well. And we want Emily to be comfortable driving it. We wanted to be safe in it, and we needed to drive nice, which suspension wise it wasn't all that great. So we put new coils in a previous video, and now we're going to do the shocks. The upper mount of the shock comes with hardware, nut, 2 bushings, 2 washes, or bushing caps, whatever you might call them. The bottom, however, does not come with hardware, and because you're going to reuse your original hardware, but New York Jeep rusted hardware. So I went looking through my nut and bolt bin, found some nuts and bolts that were of similar size to the ones that we removed. So we'll be using them, zipping these in. It's real easy. Yeah, I'm going to use some synthetic white grease like I do on everything. And I'm going to use some of that because why? New York, Jeep, rust, it all comes together. So the shocks come bundled with a strap on them, and that's just to hold them in. Just give it a little push down and you can pop that strap off. And they're going to extend all the way out, but that's not a big deal. You can move them and adjust them. So in the hardware kit, you got 2 washes and 2 bushings and a nut. Actually, they give you 2 nuts. So you got your first washer, they're beveled, and it's going to go down and it's going to sit right there. And then you got your bushing, and you got a small end and a big end on your bushing, and that's going to fit in the hole up top. And the hole up top is got the big end. You can see the big edge to it and the small edge to it, right? So the hole up top where this is going to sit has got the big one, so we want the big one up. And you can see how it's tight on here, and this is a spot that tends to rust. So what I'm going to do, because like I said, use some white grease, be nice for the next guy, because the next guy may very well be you. So what I do is I put some white grease down in the cap as well, and that's just to lubricate the rubber bushing against the metal cap and try to not make it rust so much. And you can see how nice this slides on now. Okay, and then this is going to go up through the hole in the inner fender, and it's going to bolt on the other side with another bushing and another washer on inside the hood, and I'll show you that when we get up there. So I'm just going to put a little bit of white grease on the top of the rubber bushing. Not that these really ever squeak, but just to avoid corrosion and the potential for it to squeak, and hopefully protect a little bit of the rubber. I'll even give the rubber a coating. This is synthetic lithium white grease. I think it's made by Supercoat. Yeah, Supercoat with a K. And I use that on all my fittings. Okay, and now the shock is ready to go up. So we're going to slide it up into the hole, and then we're going to let it come and rest. Now, if I move the camera for you, all right, you can see up in the hole there, it's not all the way up because we have very little compression on the suspension right now, which is where I'm going to leave it, because we just got to put the bolts in down there. Let me see if I can get you on the bolts. All right, so we're going to put the bolts in down there, and for the bolts, All right, I have they take a 13 millimeter socket, and they're just regular grade 5 metric bolts, and they go in the down direction. And again, I put some white grease on the threads. Slide the one in with a washer. Move up my second bolt. Drop that one in the hole. All right, you got them both in the hole, and we're going to put the nuts on the end and tighten them down. They don't have to get crazy tight. So I'll get a washer on either side and get my nuts started by hand. I didn't really make them tight because what I'm going to do is just make sure the shock itself is in the middle of the opening where it kind of drops through that opening in this bracket, and it's in the middle. So I'm happy with that. So I'll put a wrench on it to hold it back, and we'll drive them home. And it's that simple. So then you jack the car up just a little bit to get that to seat, and if it's crooked, you know, you can move it around. You get it just a touch, and when you get it in the middle of the hole, like you can see the groove in the rubber, just try to get it centered in the hole as best as you can. So you get it centered in that hole nice, and then you could take your other, on screen there for you? Yeah, there you are. So you center it in the hole there, and now you can grab your other rubber bushing and washer, and then the nut. I lube them up, and I'll put them on. So these particular ones, I did the other side already. I just tightened down the other side, the driver's side. And what I did notice was that they kind of, you know, usually when you tighten the shocks down, you tighten it down till your bolt starts to get sandwiched, you know, and your rubbers kind of smush a little. When your rubbers smush a little, it's tight enough. These bottom out. So the rubber just starts to smush, and then the nut actually bottoms out, and I think that's why they give you two nuts, one thinner one and one thicker one, because the thinner one is technically a jam nut. So they want you to jam nut it. So you have this thicker nut here, which is like a standard size nut, and then you have a thinner one. So you're going to put the thicker one on, and you could spin that down when you have grease on the shaft. You could spin that down pretty damn far by hand, and then you could just with a wrench or a socket, depending on what side the driver's side is under the master cylinder, so that you need to use an open end wrench or a crowfoot with, and that's the little big dummy is doing some weed whacking in the backyard. On this side, you could actually get a deep socket on it if you wanted to. So it bottoms out. The nut itself bottoms out, and I guess that's why they give you the jam nut, because you're not really getting that squish or that excessive squish like you would be with normal shocks. So I guess that's just the design of the shock. So now you put the jam nut on and just grab a wrench hold back the bottom one and tighten the jam nut to the other nut, and this way it'll hold it in position and won't loosen up. Usually the squish of the rubber bushings is enough tension on that nut where it's never going to loosen up. So it's just a different design. The directions that were in the shocks were in a different language. It probably did say that in the directions. I did look at the directions when I saw how it bottomed out, but they didn't have English directions in the box that I got. So that's it. Pretty simple. I use these KYB XLG shocks. You can use whatever shocks you like. I'll link a set of decent shocks, if not these, in the description below. Like I said, this isn't a lifted vehicle. It's not an off-road vehicle. They have done a little trail riding with it, but nothing where you need any kind of crazy suspension upgrades. The coil springs in here are only a ½ inch taller than stock, just to even it out with the rear leaf springs, which are just heavy-duty factory replacements. So it did bring the truck up just a touch, but not enough where anybody would consider it a lift. So factory size shocks is more than adequate. The shocks that were in here were probably replaced once or original. Who the heck knows? They were rotted and there was nothing left of them. When we took them out, you could just bring them back and forth without any pressure whatsoever. So I'm sure this is going to increase her ride quality tremendous paired with the new coil springs. That's it today from Axel's Garage. Hope you enjoyed the quick video. We're going to do some more on this Jeep today, and hopefully get a lot of stuff done so that we can get it back to Emily. She hates driving Wanda, the other Jeep, which is Steven's Jeep, but he's not using it because he's using Amanda's Jeep. It's a mess. Anyway, thanks for watching.